I've been working at Iron Haven for about 5 years now. It's not your flashy neon-lit fitness chain with smoothie bars and mirror selfies. It's more old school, weights clanging, sweat on the floor, no-nonsense people who come to train, hard, and leave harder. I handle the front desk, keep the place clean, make sure no one drops a barbell on their neck, and close up after hours. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me close to my two biggest comforts: routine and people watching. You see, after enough years behind that counter, you start to read people like books. I can tell when someone's pushing themselves, too hard to avoid going home, or when a guy's lifting just to impress someone. I know the lonely ones, the angry ones, the flirty ones, and the ones who come here just to feel something. I've seen all types, or at least I thought I had. Then one Thursday night, about a half hour before closing, he walked in. Jamie. He signed up for a trial pass, didn't talk much, just nodded when I handed him the clipboard and said, "First time here?" His voice was soft, almost too quiet for the space. His eyes didn't linger on mine long, but the few seconds they did felt charged. Not in an obvious way, not in a "I'm checking you out" kind of way. More like he was on alert, like he was stepping into foreign territory and didn't know the rules yet. He was tall, maybe 6'2", lean but solid. Hoodie pulled low, sweatpants hung just right. Not flashy, not cocky, just composed. But underneath that calm, there was something else, something uncertain, or maybe I imagined it. As he disappeared toward the weight racks, I caught myself still staring at the doorway. My fingers were frozen mid-type over the computer keyboard, and for the first time in a long while, I had no no mental label to slap on him. Just a quiet twist in my chest I hadn't felt in years. I didn't know his story yet, but I had a feeling it was one I wanted to hear, maybe even be part of. Jamie started showing up every evening like clockwork, always around 7:45 p.m, just late enough to avoid the post-work rush, just early enough to finish his session before we closed at 9. He never spoke much, never brought a friend, never wore anything with a brand name. Hoodie up, earbuds in, eyes down. But I noticed every damn thing about him. He hit the weights hard, focused, efficient, no theatrics. He moved like someone who knew his body well, like he'd either trained before or was desperately trying to reclaim some part of himself he thought he'd lost. And even though he kept to himself, I could feel the awareness between us. That flicker, that tension. I'd always find something to do nearby when he was in. Stock the towel rack by the squat rack. Re-wipe the benches that had already been wiped. Reorganize the protein bars at the front just in time to watch him head out the door. And yeah, maybe I should have kept my distance. Professional boundaries and all that. But damn, there was something about the way he looked when he was in his own world. Focused, jaw tight, skin glistening just enough to blur the line between admiration and desire. He'd glance at me sometimes, just little flicks of the eyes, barely their nods. One night, he caught me watching him and gave the faintest half smile before slipping away into the locker room. It wasn't flirtation, not really, but it wasn't nothing either. I started timing my playlist with his workout, switched up the music to more mellow, lo-fi beats in the final half hour, like I was curating the atmosphere just for him. I didn't even realize I was doing it until one night, he walked past the counter, paused, and said, "Nice track." That was the first time he'd spoken to me voluntarily. 3 words. But my chest lit up like he'd just whispered a secret in my ear. And that's when the war started inside me. See, it's one thing to notice a guy, to feel attraction, but it's another to act on it when you're technically staff, when he's technically a customer, when you don't know a damn thing about his situation, his preferences, his past, his intentions. For all I knew, Jamie could have been straight or taken, or just too private for this kind of thing. But then there was the part of me, the human part, that didn't want to let this connection slip by. I'd spent too many years in silence. Too many nights locking up alone, walking past the echo of heavy breathing and laughter that belonged to other people, other lives. Jamie made me feel curious again, awake, and that feeling was becoming harder to ignore. It was a Tuesday, quiet, slow. One of those evenings where the gym feels more like a sanctuary than a business. Machines humming gently, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and the scent of sweat and eucalyptus cleaner hanging in the air. By 8:45, the place had emptied out like it always did, except for Jamie. He lingered by the cable machine, pretending to check his phone, his towel draped around his neck. I'd finished wiping down the front desk and tossed the last of the towels in the laundry bin. The silence stretched, and I could feel him still there, hovering. "You good?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. Jamie looked up. His eyes locked onto mine like he'd been waiting for permission. "Yeah," he said, voice tight. "Just didn't feel like rushing out tonight." He took a step toward the counter, then another, until he was standing just a few feet away. His hands gripped the towel nervously, twisting it slowly. He looked different up close tonight. Tense, unsure, like he was carrying something heavy. "Can I ask you something?" he said. I nodded. "Of course." He looked around, instinctive, cautious, like someone might burst in at any moment. "You ever been with someone who didn't know what they were doing?" The question caught me off guard. Not because of what he asked, but how quietly he said it. Like he wasn't sure he had the right to even speak it aloud. "Yeah," I said gently. "A few times." Jamie's eyes dropped to the floor. His voice was even quieter now. I've never been with a guy, not all the way. I've thought about it, a lot, but it always felt easier to bury it." He looked up again, and for the first time, the guarded mask he always wore cracked just a little. There was something raw in his expression. Vulnerability, dressed in muscle and sweat and fear. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. "I don't even know what I want, really. But when I come here, and I see you..." He trailed off, shaking his head like he regretted saying it. I stood, still, my pulse steady but strong. Part of me wanted to reach out to ease the tension in his shoulders, but I didn't move. I just let him speak. "I guess I just trust you," he said. "You don't talk much, but I feel like you see people, like you see me." That hit me deep. I swallowed the knot in my throat. "I do see you," I said softly. "More than you probably know." He hesitated again, eyes scanning mine for any sign of rejection or judgment. Then, barely above a whisper, "Would you help me? Just figure things out?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I did, deeply. And I knew that if I said yes, everything between us was going to shift. So I nodded, slowly. "Yeah, Jamie, I'll help you, but only if it's what you want." He exhaled, part relief, part fear. But he nodded too, and in that quiet space between heartbeats, something unspoken passed between us. Something fragile, but real. The gym had long since emptied. The lights in the main room were dimmed, casting everything in soft amber shadows. In the back office, the hum of the mini-fridge was the only sound between us. I'd locked the doors like always, but tonight felt different. Like we weren't just closing up shop. We were opening something else. Jamie stood just inside the room, his gym bag still slung over one shoulder. He didn't meet my eyes. His fingers played with the strap, fidgeting, like it anchored him to something safe. "You sure?" I asked, voice low. He nodded, but it was the kind of nod that came from the throat, not the heart. Hesitant, like he needed to convince himself. I stayed by the desk, giving him space. I knew what this moment meant. For him, it wasn't just about sex. It was about stepping into something unspoken and long suppressed. Something that scared him, but also pulled at him like gravity. Jamie finally dropped the bag and exhaled. "I'm nervous," he admitted. "That's okay," I said. "I'd be more worried if you weren't." That made him smile. Just a little, but it softened his edges. I moved toward him slowly, like approaching a wild animal that wasn't sure if it wanted to bolt or lean in. When I reached him, I raised my hand and gently touched his shoulder. He didn't flinch, just breathed deeper. "You don't have to prove anything tonight," I said. "We just go slow. You tell me if you want to stop. At any point." Jamie looked up then, and his eyes weren't scared anymore, just full of questions, of need, of quiet trust. He whispered, "Okay." I leaned in and kissed him, softly, just once. His lips were tense at first, unsure. But when I pulled back, he followed. The second kiss was longer. His hand found my waist, fingers curling into the hem of my shirt. He was shaking, just slightly, and I realized he wasn't cold. He was feeling everything all at once. We moved toward the couch in the corner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours tonight. We sat, our knees touching, breaths mingling in the space between us. I took my time. My hands traced his arms, the ones I'd watched flex and pull weights for weeks. I could feel how hard he was trying not to overthink. Every touch was permission. Every sigh was a little surrender. Jamie's hand found my chest, palm flat, feeling my heartbeat. He looked up at me. "I've wanted this. I just didn't know it could feel like this." "Like what?" I asked, brushing a strand of sweat-slicked hair from his brow. "Safe," he said. That did something to me, deeper than lust, deeper than desire. I saw him. Not just his body or his nerves, but the part of him he'd never shown anyone, the part that craved being seen. Our clothes came off slowly. There was no rush, no hunger, just exploration. Warm skin, breathy laughs, a soft gasp when I kissed the curve of his neck. He clung to me like he wasn't sure where his body ended and mine began. When we finally lay back, tangled and still, Jamie rested his head on my chest. His breath evened out, his fingers drawing lazy circles against my ribs. "Thank you," he murmured. "You don't have to thank me." "I do," he said, "because I've never let anyone get this close." I kissed the top of his head, holding him tighter. "Neither have I." And in that quiet, dim-lit room, we didn't say another word. We just breathed. Together. It didn't happen every night, but it happened enough to become something. After his workouts, Jamie would hang back, sometimes under the pretense of finishing a protein shake, sometimes just sitting at the stretching mat a little longer than needed, and I knew what that meant. There was a new rhythm to our routine now. He'd nod at me when the last person left, and I'd lock the doors. No words, no plans, just that quiet agreement we shared with our eyes. And then, in the low hum of after-hours silence, we'd disappear into the back. At first, he'd wait for me to take the lead, but slowly, that changed. Jamie began to touch me more confidently, not bold exactly, but intentional. His hand might brush my lower back as he passed. One evening, he pressed me up against the wall beside the office, lips firm, breath heavy, and that was the first time he kissed me first. "You're getting brave," I teased when we pulled apart, hearts thudding in sync. "Maybe I'm just tired of pretending I don't want it," he replied. It wasn't just about the physical anymore, though that part was magnetic, the kind of energy that buzzed just beneath the skin. It was the way he started asking questions. About me. About my past. About the first guy I'd ever been with, and how I knew. "I feel like I've lived in a locked room my whole life," he said one night, curled against me on the gym couch, "and now the door's open. But I don't know if I'm ready to walk through." I wanted to tell him I'd wait, that I wasn't going anywhere. But even I wasn't sure what we were building. I hadn't meant to fall for him. Hell, I Hadn't even realized it was happening until I caught myself watching the door at 6 p.m. every day, heart skipping when he walked in. Until I started dreading weekends when I wouldn't see him. Until the casual touches started feeling like, not enough. I found myself wanting more, not just the kisses or the stolen moments after hours. I wanted to wake up next to him. I wanted to see what he looked like in sunlight, not just under the cold fluorescent glow of the gym office. I wanted to introduce him to my world, my friends, my home. But every time I thought about saying something, I hesitated, because Jamie was still figuring himself out. He smiled more now, laughed more, even flirted openly. But I saw the flicker in his eyes when someone lingered too long near us at the gym. I heard the way he caught himself mid-sentence when he almost said something real in public. There was one night, late, quiet, when I brushed a kiss against his neck and whispered, "I want more than this, Jamie." He pulled back slightly, not away, but enough to create space between us. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "I'm not saying no. I just don't know how to say yes yet." I nodded, even though my chest ached. It's okay. And it was, kind of. But that moment planted something between us. A question neither of us could answer yet. An ache that lingered after the sweat dried and our clothes were back on. Because wanting someone was easy. Waiting for them to want you the same way. That was the real weight I was carrying. It was a Friday night. The gym was nearly empty all evening, and Jamie had been unusually quiet. Focused, but distracted, like something was brewing behind those dark, thoughtful eyes. After everyone had gone, and the last barbell was racked, I started wiping down the counter when he approached. No words, just that intense gaze. I recognized it now. That shift in him when he wasn't just curious. He was ready. He followed me into the office, but this time, he didn't wait for me to take the lead. He stepped close, fingers curling, around my wrist, pulling me toward the couch where we always ended up tangled in low whispers and half-spoken confessions. But tonight was different. "Let me," he said softly, eyes locked on mine. "Let you what?" He swallowed, then smiled, small, nervous, but certain. "Please you. I've been thinking about it. A lot." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest tighten. He wasn't trying to prove anything. This wasn't about roles or power. It was trust. A gift. I searched his face, trying to gauge if he was really ready. "Are you sure?" Jamie nodded. "I want to know what you feel like. What it's like to give, not just receive. I want to know you. God, how do you say no to that?" I let him. What followed was clumsy at first. His hands uncertain, touch too light in some places, too rough in others. But it didn't matter. His eagerness made everything electric. The way he looked at me like I was something precious. The way he listened to every sound I made, adjusting, learning. Somewhere in the middle of it, when his hands were on my hips and his lips brushing along my skin, I felt something crack open in me. Not just desire, something deeper, something terrifying. Afterward, when we were tangled together on the couch, his head resting on my chest, Jamie whispered, "I like this. Not just the sex, you. Being near you." I couldn't speak for a second. Then I asked, "Do you think about us, outside this place?" He was quiet. Then, "Sometimes, I think about texting you just to say hi. I think about what you look like, in real clothes. I wonder if you'd want to hang out, without needing the excuse of a workout." My chest thudded hard. "Yeah," I said, voice low. "I do too." And that's when it hit me. I was falling for him, slowly, helplessly, beyond the stolen kisses and late-night touches. I wanted his voice in the mornings, his laugh in the daylight. I looked down at him, eyes half closed, lips curved faintly. He was still figuring it all out. But damn if he didn't. Already have my heart wrapped up in his hands. The gym lights hummed low as I finished closing up. Most nights, Jamie waited in the office, But tonight, he stood leaning against the edge of the locker room entrance, arms folded, eyes on me. There was a tension in the air, charged and unreadable. "You coming?" he asked, voice rougher than usual. I raised an eyebrow. "Locker room?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked in. I hesitated a second, then followed. The locker room felt different at night. Dimmed lights, quiet echoes, the smell of sweat and soap lingering in the air. Jamie stood near the benches, back to me, running a hand through his hair. When he turned, his expression was unreadable, but intense. "I've been thinking," he said. "About?" He stepped closer, crowding my space, and cupped the back of my neck. "About going further, about taking control. I want to try." I blinked. "You mean?" He nodded, jaw tight. "I trust you. You've made me feel safe, wanted. I want to know what it's like to give that back to you." Something flipped inside me. Pride, desire, love, all tangled up. "You sure?" He nodded again, firmer this time. "Yeah, but I want to do it here, like, in the place where it all started." The boldness in his voice warred with the tremble in his fingers as he peeled off his hoodie. I helped him, pulling him close as our lips met. No hesitation, no fear, just heat and need. His hands were more confident now, bolder. He pushed me gently but firmly toward the bench, nudging me to sit as he straddled me, our breath tangling. Clothes came off in pieces. The cool air made our skin feel hypersensitive. Every touch mattered. Every moan meant something. When the time came, Jamie hesitated, but only for a second. I guided him, gentle and slow, letting him take the lead. It wasn't perfect. The rhythm awkward at times, his grip too tight, movements unsure. But he was so present, so in it, focused on how I was reacting, learning what made me shiver, what made me melt. "Is this okay?" he whispered against my ear. "Yeah," I breathed. "More than okay." And when he finally pushed into me, his whole body trembled. He buried his face in my neck, moaning softly, overwhelmed by sensation and emotion. It was rougher than before, his thrusts urgent, his breath ragged. But it wasn't careless. Every movement was threaded with care, with need, with something that tasted like love, even if neither of us said it. Afterward, we lay together on a towel on the cold tile, our limbs tangled, hearts pounding. Jamie kissed my shoulder and exhaled. I didn't know it could feel like that, like more than just physical. I looked at him, brushing a curl from his damp forehead. It always was. He blinked at me, eyes glossy. "Yeah, I think I knew that. I was just scared to believe it." In that moment, the locker room faded away. All I saw was Jamie, raw, brave, and completely open with me. We didn't need to label it. Not yet. But we both knew. This wasn't just messing around anymore. Something real was blooming between us. The locker room was quiet now. The hum of the overhead lights barely registered as we lay together, Jamie's head resting on my chest, our bodies cooling against the towel beneath us. Neither of us spoke. There was a weight in the silence, not heavy, but full. Full of the things we hadn't said yet. Jamie's fingers traced idle shapes across my stomach. Then, almost too softly to catch, he murmured, "I think I'm falling for you." My breath caught. The words hit like a slow, warm wave, not shocking but deep. I looked down at him, my hand frozen mid-stroke on his back. He didn't meet my gaze. I know this wasn't supposed to be that. I didn't expect it either. I could feel the vulnerability in his voice, the fear of saying too much, too soon. My heart thudded harder. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't sure I had the right words, but I knew how I felt when he walked into a room. I knew how it felt when he touched me. not just on my skin, but deeper. And I knew I didn't want this to end. So instead of speaking, I tilted his chin up and kissed him. Slow, lingering, full of every word I couldn't say yet. He kissed me back like he understood. When we finally pulled apart, he smiled faintly, eyes glassy but warm. "Okay," he whispered. And just like that, everything between us shifted, from something secret and thrilling to something real and terrifying and beautiful. We sat on the edge of the locker room bench, both half-dressed, the sweat and steam of the night still lingering on our skin. My hand brushed Jamie's, and this time he didn't pull away. He laced our fingers together like it was the most natural thing in the world. "So," he said, voice low, a hint of nervousness behind the grin. "What do we do now?" It was a simple question, but it carried the weight of everything we'd shared, everything we hadn't said yet. The gym, the sweat, the touches, the quiet talks after hours. It all led to this moment. I took a breath. "I don't know," I admitted. "This started as something unexpected, but it doesn't feel casual anymore, at least not to me." Jamie looked down, then back at me, searching my face. "Me neither. I didn't come here looking for this. I didn't even know I wanted it." "You sure you still do?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I want to keep exploring, with you. But I don't want to rush anything. I'm still figuring stuff out." I squeezed his hand. "That's okay. We don't have to define it right now. But you want more?" he asked, voice softer. I paused, feeling the honesty tug at my chest. "Yeah," I said. "I think I do." We sat in that fragile honesty for a moment longer, then stood, moving in sync, without thinking. Side by side, we left the locker room, the fluorescent lights behind us flickering out one by one. Outside, the city night greeted us, humid, quiet, filled with possibilities. Jamie looked at me. "Can I walk with you?" "Always," I said. We stepped into the night, not as gym staff and member, not as something defined, but as something becoming. Where it would go, we didn't know. But for the first time, uncertainty felt a lot like hope.